last time we talked a little bit about DISC and how we behave. We took a cool assessment and you guys had some cool results. I think we had some nice ahas, but today we're going to talk about why we act that way. It's our motivators, our values, sometimes called our driving forces. And really it's our underlying, what gets us excited. It's what we're passionate about. So how we behave in DISC is how we show up and how we prefer to accomplish all it is in our motivators. And when we have different motivators or similar motivators, then we like what the other person is talking about. In our first monkey example, I said use DISC to understand how the other person likes to communicate so they take their fingers out of their ears long enough to listen. And now we can talk to them about something we care about. So that's the monkey example here. What do they care about? Here's that quick reminder of how you walk through the gates is very different than the game you're going to go watch, right? We all walk through the gates a little bit differently, and we all want to watch a different kind of sports game. So that's kind of what this is about in our motivators. And this is what I hope you learn today, what others really want, and the 6 motivators that drive people into action, and how to use that to get people to move, really. Because if I'm trying to encourage you with a carrot and you don't like carrots, well, I'm not going to be very successful if you like apples and I change to an apple. So this will help us understand, does this person like carrots, apples, or chocolate cake like me? So if you're excited about that, say, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good. So just a refresher on DISC, just a reminder of what DISC was about. And it's a separate science altogether, how we behave. The motivators are what get us excited. It's our value. It's what we care about. It's our sponge. It's what we talk about. So this is what your graph will look like. If you have yours with you, it's going to be on page 30 to 35, somewhere in there. You don't have to have it in front of you. I'll show you all of yours in a few minutes, but this is my graph. These are the things that get me excited, and you'll know what they mean really soon. The top 2 drive us into action. So this yellow thing and this red thing I'll tell you about. If you talk about those, I'll get excited. I'll want to stay in that conversation. I'll want to engage. I'll want to do whatever it is you're trying to convince me to do. But if you were talking about gray and black things, I'd be like, yeah, that's interesting for you, right? Not compelling to me. So important on these graphs is the blue line that you see running across each. That's the average score of Americans. So you can see that I'm more passionate. I care more about this red and gold and purple thing than most other Americans. And I need to know that about me because I'm going to show up way more excited than most other people. And other people care about this green, black, and silver thing, or that I'm not passionate about. So I need to be aware that people are going to want to talk about that. I'm just like, that's your jam. Does that make sense for you?
Mm-hmm.
Your employees, your clients want to buy something from you, and they're going to buy through these motivators. Your employees are going to stick with you if you fulfill their motivators. Unfortunately, each person has a different set, so this will help. So think of anything you score really high in, your top 2, maybe 3. That's what you're passionate about. The things you kind of score moderately in, maybe my green is situational. Sometimes that drives me, sometimes it doesn't. And then the other ones, it's not that I hate that gray thing or dislike that black thing. It's just that I'm indifferent. It doesn't move me. If you talk about me, about those things, it's not going to revolt me. It's just going to be uninteresting. Okay. Sometimes it can turn to revolt. If you're talking really strong about something that somebody is strongly against, it can be revolt. This is really the difference between external and internal motivation. Go do it or dangle the carrot, or you get to learn what motivates people. And we're going to jump in and do that. So the theoretical motivator, the first one that you see is red, and that is about knowledge. It's about understanding. It's a seeking of the truth, to understand, to teach, to learn. People who score high here love information, they want to know everything about everything. They wake up thinking, what do I get to learn today? Whereas somebody who scores low in that, it doesn't mean they have a low IQ. This is our passions. It just means that they're not driven to learn. They're going to learn what they need to learn in order to fulfill their other motivators. So high theoreticals wake up motivated to educate, to solve problems, right? To think through things. This says they like cold, hard facts and research. I wouldn't say cold because we have some high eyes on the team here, and it doesn't have to be cold. It can be warm facts and research, but it's got to be facts and research, and it's got to make sense. right? So think if you score high there at the bottom of the screen, you'll see if you score high, kind of an intellectual vibe about you, always curious, always giving some information. And if you score low, you kind of have an instinctual vibe. I don't need all the information. I kind of go with my gut. Okay. And there's value on both ends. So high's not good, low's not bad. It's only bad. How about this? It's only bad when you are mismatched with somebody else and you guys don't realize it. That's when it's bad. Utilitarian, the gold bar. It's about money or time. Really, it's about efficiency and effectiveness. People with a high utilitarian wake up wanting to create ROI. They want to grow things. This is really the hallmark of salesmen and entrepreneurs, because they wake up thinking, how do I get a little bit more? How do I save a little more time? It's not necessarily greed, but just a real effective use of resources. They're super important. So if you're talking with a high utilitarian, you're probably going and you ask them to take a trip across town, they're going to think like, I got to make this stop and that stop. How am I going to make it most effective, efficient, save the most gas? Is how high utilitarians think. Why it's important in sales and entrepreneurship is if you think like a low utilitarian, it's only money. It kind of comes and goes. I have enough. It doesn't drive you to propel you to be top salespeople or have that internal passion to cut through all the muck of entrepreneurship, right? So they want to revert an investment on time. Also, if you score high with utilitarian, that's what you love, and that's what we all think that other people love what we love. And we think that other people love that. So we're going to talk about effective things, right? I'm always going to be talking about useful things because I score high here. If we're not talking about useful, practical things, I start to lose interest until it becomes practical again. The aesthetic. It's about beauty and form and harmony in life. It's about Zen. On the high end, it's a real seeking of pleasure, of just harmony around you, of Zen, of peace. And that's not just aesthetic by the eyes, but in your feel, in the mojo of the team, that intuition. Painters and dancers, expressive people, foodies who taste, the Gouda in their hamburger. For a high utilitarian, we're like, we need fuel. It needs to cost less than $9. For a high aesthetic who eats the same hamburger, they're going to say, I don't care the cost as long as the texture's right. It's the right temperature. That's the brioche. That's the aesthetic vibe on the high end. You want to motivate them with cool experiences in the workplace, enjoyable events. Let's do something together, something they like, a spa treatment or something, a nice environment. Good mojo between employees or employee and customer. They don't like to work in a disharmonious workplace, and they'll be super sensitive when it is. I'm kind of speaking a lot about this because if I remember right, we'll see in a second, we might have had some lower aesthetics on our team. And that happens sometimes in business because the low aesthetic is more objective and they don't care how it feels. So they're more willing to grind through some nonsense, right? Because they don't have that feeler. But it's really important to understand the high end of this aesthetic because they can bring things to your business that are super important. Like this marketing piece, it says all the right things, it explains everything, but it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't hit my emotions right. High aesthetic people on your team will pick up that piece and know that within a second. And we can't calculate that. That's going to be hard for our ROI utilitarian or our informational theoretical if you're one of those. You just have to trust that aesthetic knows something I don't know. Anyway, the social. It's a helping hand. Sometimes when I think of social, I think of high I in our DISC model, right? That influential, interpersonal, but this is our passions. And remember, this is about what we care about. And the social is about social justice. And they feel the pain of others and they want to take it away. They really care. I often joke that they're the ones that cry at the puppy commercials with Sarah McLachlan. And they give 30 cents to the kids in Africa, but they feel it, right? They're looking for the next charity case to help this weekend. And they just don't want other people to suffer. I've felt that many of them probably had some suffering in their life and they just don't want others to have it. That's maybe an aside that's not part of the science, but just experience. But a real goal to say, I'm not letting that happen to other people. And I feel that in you. So if you want to, involve them in your business, then you want to really make sure that they're connected, that they feel like you want to help them, that you care about their kid's baseball game because they care about your kid's baseball game, right? On the high end, it's altruistic. Sometimes they'll give their last dollar to charity, right? They'll help their alcoholic husband too long. He's a good guy, but it's not good for me, but he needs me. That's a different value system than a high utilitarian that says, if it doesn't start working, then I can't help you anymore, right? Very different. On the low end of the social, if you score low there, that doesn't mean you're Hitler. Doesn't mean you don't care about people. It means that you're more intentional about who you serve and for how long. You know when to draw the line a little bit sooner than somebody who gives their last drop. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
There's only 2 more. And then we're going to have some fun with your team. The individualistic, it's a little bit about power and prestige, but mostly it's about being an individual. We're probably going to find this on this team. It's, I do it my way. Watch me. Right? Don't tell me how to do it. Just read the papers tomorrow. We're going to build a company that other people respect. It's about asserting one's own will, kind of being a maverick. Like, I understand you guys have a rule book and that's important for you, but I kind of do it my way. I don't see a lot of high individualistic people joining franchises unless it's like a top ranked franchise, with a big name. Right. And then they can say, I own one of those franchises, right? A McDonald's franchise. High individualistics wouldn't open a Subway franchise because they want to do it their own way. And they'd be like, yeah, we need a nice, Italian sandwich on here. And they'd do it their way. So you want to motivate these people. These are your big boys in the company, the ones that need the pride and the recognition. People with a low individualistic score who are not driven by this, they're more collaborative. It's more like a team win for them. It's like, we didn't want to be on that front page of the newspaper, right? So they kind of work together a little bit better, whereas your high individualistics are going to be like, I'm the leader of this team, watch me. And individualistics, they can all work together. I might have said this a little bit about the D's, but it's really focused here with the individualistic. These folks can work together as long as both of their goals are in the same place. But when those goals clash, that's when it really becomes a problem, because these are people who have to assert their will and win. One more thing maybe to consider is that this doesn't correlate with DISC. I've met high D's who are individualistic, and I've met high D's who are low individualistic. So a high D with high individualistic is, we are going to make the paper. We are the best. Watch us do it, right? I'm going to do it, And a low individualistic high D is, we are not going to do that to our team members. Stop doing that. We are a team, right? So it's that I'm exaggerating the toughness of the D, but adding in the pride that comes with it at the high end, or the teamwork that comes at the low end. Hope that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional is about believing in something. It's a believing or belonging to something, a real group think, a system of living. So I see it with religion and patriotism. I see it with I belong to this group of folks. On the high end, it becomes dogmatic. It's our group and you can't change it. In business, it looks like we're doing it the FedEx way. Nothing's going to change. We don't change any of it. On the low end, it's more receptive. It's like, I don't have to believe in something. I don't have to belong to something. I'm open to new ideas. I know we've done it in Holtz's company for a couple generations this way, but I'm low traditional. So I want to rock the boat a little bit. I'm open to some newer ways of doing painting.
It's not going to work here.
There you go.
It's not going to work here. Sorry.
I love that you said that.
Let's see what he is.
Rick, that points to a high traditional, culture that you have there, that we belong. We drink this Kool-Aid. This is the Holtz way, right? Good. And some companies are going to be like that, and other ones are different than that. Both are fine. All styles can work together. The goal is that we don't make people feel like this, right? Oh, you like that stuff? You're weird. So just some more monkey theme for you. I want to play a quick game for you because it's going to hammer it home. But people see what they're looking for and they take away what they want, right? We can all go, like I said earlier, we can all play a musical instrument. We just go about it differently in our DISC style. It's the same with our motivators. So what I'd like to do is show you this picture and then maybe have you guys just talk out a few things that come to mind when you see this picture. So here you go. It's a beautiful beach picture. What do you think of, or what do you feel? What comes to mind when you see this picture?
And water's really close to that house.
Yeah. Why is that important, Rick?
That's a huge asset right there that looks like it's about to get engulfed. Too close to the water for me.
True story. I like it. What else?
I think of vacation.
Vacation. Yeah. And why? Why this place?
I guess because it's near the water. I imagine it's near the beach, and it's a huge home. So, and what I immediately think of is, man, that would fit a lot of family, and would be a great vacation home.
You're right. I like it. Yeah, there's so much family would fit in there.
Yes.
Like, what are you thinking?
From my first thought was, man, that's nice. Just it looks like a big place that you'd be comfortable at and just really enjoy your time there.
Yeah. It's awesome. Fantastic. I love it. And I do this with groups, and I love hearing all the things, because you guys were just saying what your motivators care about, right? So we're all looking at this picture. Let's play a game here. How might somebody who's driven by utility, how might they answer this question? They might answer it like Rick. Notice Rick said the water is too close to the house. And these motivators, when you're trying to discover them, always come from a why question, right? Remember, if DISC is how you like to do things, why is that tragic? Or why did that stick out to you that the water's too close to the house? And he said, that's an asset. Exactly what a high utilitarian would say.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a gorgeous house.
It's gorgeous. Now that might be more aesthetic.
Yeah.
Right. But you went first, like, that's an asset. I need to.
Well, yeah.
Utilitarian's kicking in right now.
Yeah.
Right. And Danny, she said vacation. I've heard from like high aesthetics. It's beautiful. I can smell the beach already. Look at the trees. I bet it feels good. I also heard some social in there. I want my family. Maybe it was traditional. I want my family around me, and here's enough room for them. The high individualistic, what might they say about a house like this? They were kind of individuals, power, prestige, a little notoriety.
Oh, like, look at my trophy. Look at this house I have that you don't.
Yeah. There you go. Or if you didn't own it, they'd say, I wonder who lives there. They're big cheese, right?
Yeah, they're a big shot.
Yeah. Wonder how many square foot. That's important to a high individualistic. The high utilitarian would say, what was the price per square foot?
Yeah.
Are these kind of examples helpful?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would a high social? Danny said some high social stuff. What might they say about this house?
Could fit a lot of family in there or friends.
That's right. Helpful, right? Or if somebody needed a place to stay, I got one for them. Something like that. The traditional, someone who wants to belong to something. This one's sometimes tricky, but I don't want to make it sound tricky to you. What kind of belonging or belief system would somebody that has that house, what would they think about that house?
Maybe a great community.
Love it. Perfect.
There's a lot of people in the neighborhood, or close neighborhood, or
yes, that's
something
exactly
like that.
Our neighborhood, right? Our golf club, whatever it is. Yeah, community. That's our peninsula. Our 8 houses are on this island, or whatever it is, right? It's our jam. And the theoretical, what might they say? I'll give you a hint. The theoreticals don't say a lot. They ask.
How many rooms?
How many bedrooms? Yeah. How many bathrooms?
How many square feet?
Is it a huge kitchen?
Yep. What architecture style, right? Here's a little theoretical utilitarian mixed together. I'm curious what the electric bill would be.
I was thinking that, but I was like, God, how much does it cost for all those lights to be on all the time?
That's the first thing I thought of, and I'm super high utilitarian.
Because I'm always asking my daughter, turn out your damn light. Would you please turn out your light?
And then you come to work and I give you this, Rick.
Yeah, I know, man. And you show me a picture of every light on in the house that gives me anxiety.
It sounds like it's fine.
I used to do that.
Dark. It's not even dark outside yet. Why are all the lights on?
I'll tell you the answer, because the high aesthetics know that that's beautiful and that feels better.
Yeah.
It's something high aesthetics have that low aesthetics can't appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fun.
Here's our team. Even with Scott must have some technical issues, or maybe I offended him. That could happen.
Said he lost power at his house.
Oh gosh.
Well,
Is that what he said, Mike?
Yeah. I think he's trying to log back in. Yeah, we'll keep going.
We'll do some CGI or some chat GPT and have his face up there or something. But here's our motivators all together as a team. And when I'm looking at a team, I really want to see them kind of, I want to see some similarities, like where do we unite? And then where are the differences where we might have struggles? But look at this individualistic team. Not only do you guys score, in a similar place, but it's all above the line, right? You're all cowboys, mavericks. And you're going to disrupt this industry, each a little bit slightly different than each other, but under the umbrella of C4C. Does that make sense for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important, high individualistics, it's important to have other high individualistics next to you, because sometimes if you're a winner and you're striving to achieve things and to be the big guy or the big gal, having quote unquote losers on your team is deflating. So especially look for that with people with lower EQ. In construction, we deal with a lot of contractors, but in construction, sometimes those journeymen are really tough on the newer people. It's a lot of that unbridled individualistic. I'm better than you, and I need to keep you in a different place.
Push you down.
Yeah. And so with low EQ, they need to push others down to do it. So it just takes a little bit more emotional intelligence to say, hey, we can all rise and I can still be the winner, Or we can win together like this team does. You're all driven for productivity. Mike can't stop it. He's like, Art put too many commas in that one sentence, and that wasted 4.2 seconds of my time. Right, Mike?
I'm big on money and time.
Yes.
Yes.
Resources, all of them. Efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Danielle, the most productive assistant ever, right? Nailing all the stuff. Right. Really think this team thinks productively. How do we productively help these people win in their business, establish a winning business? And some of you really rely on like some knowledge about it. And some of you go with your gut and some instinct, and that's okay. Rick doesn't care to learn this stuff as deeply as Danielle does. But if it's effective, he'll stick, right? If it helps people and advances his position, right? If this stuff will help his company grow and it helps those employees and it feels right, tell me more. But he didn't come here to learn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, Rick?
I actually would like you to say that again, because that was like perfect.
Whenever we look at our motivators, we're looking at our purpose. And your purpose in life are your top three here. You got three strong ones. And it's beautiful things that help people and advance our position. It's creating helpful ways so that people look good, right? Right. So that they can be their own person too. And they don't have to suffer, and they have a rich experience. But that's what you're doing. You're not putting paint on houses or running a company. This is what you're doing. That's your purpose in life.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll do Danny real quick. How about that? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Danny's got her top three here. The top two with this kicker are theoretical, utilitarian, and individualistic. Really, Danny, what you might not know is that you are, in fact, a salesperson, entrepreneur, a business leader. You might know that already. Just more with a kind of a quieter side to you. You lead from the side rather than the front, or from the back with a whip. But great leadership skills that usually come with this. But it's someone who loves learning productive things. when I see these two, think of like an engineer, somebody who has to disassemble and reassemble and understand how that span is going to work. And we got to do that with the fewest amount of resources. How do we get those iron bars there? Really thinking things out and being effective about it. Accountants, engineers, investigators, but also one with a little bit of pride. Interesting here that the whole team is a little bit lower on the traditional, open to new ideas, more receptive to new ideas. And Scott, the glue, he's not dogmatic about his ideas, but he says, yeah, a certain amount of structure is what we want. And he's open to hearing those new ideas to put into the company. The aesthetic ranges, right? It varies here. This is where you guys will see things most differently. And I don't know that it's going to play a big part in your type of company. I don't know if that motivator is going to make much of a difference. Just understand that other people see things differently. Scott and Mike are going to be more workaholics, right? They're going to drive harder, push harder. It doesn't have to feel as nice. Whereas Rick and Danielle are like, hey, we've done some good things. Now it's time to clock out and see our family a bit. And they're like, yeah, we're making money for the family a bit. Is that fair, guys? Am I doing okay?
That's good. Oh, yeah.
All right. I want you about 80% offended. No more than that.
Rick says, when's this meeting going to be over? I got to get to the river house.
I bet.
It's not Friday, Scott. Today's Thursday.
You're thinking about it right now.
Now I am, now that you mentioned it.
Winners don't take off on a Friday for the river house, right? They got to show up and show them that they're doing it. I'm making up a story.
That's funny.
Here's another way to look at it. I don't like this wheel as much as the other, but the outside ring kind of tells us your primary motivator. The second ring is your second motivator. So if you score in the top 1 or 2 with somebody else, that means you value things the way they do. So Danny and Scott value this theoretical, whereas this third ring, Rick says, that doesn't drive me as much. You guys are going to talk about that. That's your second motivator. And Rick's going to be like, I don't care about the theory. What's the practice? How does it affect our people? Right. Mm-hmm. And here we have Mike and Danny. Let's make this effective, a good exchange. If we're going to do it, let's make some money or gain something from it. Let's not just spend money willy-nilly or time willy-nilly. And the whole team here has some individualistic to them. Danny, you had some as well. What was it?
I was going to say I'm not there, but
because it wasn't
a little
one
bit.
of the top 3.
Oh, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I could have put 6 rings, but you should see it. It gets really hairy there when there's all these initials. I like to see those top 2 and the one you're kind of averse to at the bottom.
So that makes more sense. I was curious about the social. And so in this example, it would mean that it would be my third motivator.
6th. I'm sorry. You're 6th.
Oh, my bad. Oh, okay.
It's 6th out of 6th, but let's also, this wheel kind of puts us in a nice little position to quickly look at a whole team and say, hey, how is our admin staff? How do they work? Who are the top performers on the team? Who are the bottom performers? Do they fit? Is there a pattern I can see, and should we hire different people? But it doesn't really get you into the nuance of, your 6th wasn't in the toilet, right? I mean, you still scored there. I've seen much lower scores. It was just the lowest for you. Mm-hmm. It's time together real quick. Go ahead.
Lowest one?
Say again, Scott.
What's Danny's lowest?
Social. But it's only slightly lower than Scott's social, right? And it's only slightly lower than the line. But on the wheel, it's your lowest, so it doesn't tell you the nuance. But a cool tool for when, what I've plotted for other companies, if they have like 20 employees, I'll say, let's rank your top and bottom performers and put them on a wheel. And then we can easily see that the A players kind of gravitate. Here's where their values are. right? Because they fit the values of the company or the values of that position or whatever it is. And the poor performers will be scattered like a shotgun all over here. And so then we can hone in our hiring or our management style.
That's good.
Thanks. Tying them together. Here's just to see how the how and the why work together. We understand the social. That's the helpful person. If you're driven by this altruism and you're a high D, you're going to say, I'm going to help you, knock it off. If you see a friend in a bad relationship, you're going to say, knock it off, stop it. Come on, let's get you out of there. I want to help, and I'm going to do it in a high D way. If you're a high I and a high social, I want to help you. Let's go dance. We got to get some wine and get your mind off that creep, right? Come on, girl. It's going to be that upbeat, influential, still helpful. The S is going to be like, oh, sweetie, how come you didn't tell me sooner? Come over, have some pizza. We'll watch a rom-com, right? I'll be with you. It's still helpful, but in that easier social, you get S way. And the C is going to be like, I want to help you. Here's the check mark. Here's the books that are recommended for bad relationships, or more precision. Here's how I want to help. I'm going to order flowers and deliver that on Friday at 1, that kind of thing. So that's how DISC and motivators play together. Questions? Any questions about our motivators? Scott, I see you're talking, but I can't hear you too well.
Microphone issues.
Yes. Internet issues. Now microphone. All right. Is that better?
Way good.
I had a thought in my head about the concept of love languages or laws of appreciation in the workplace. Is the motivators a way that we can understand each other is what you're saying, so that understanding the way I am is helpful, of course, but in addition to understanding how others are might help me address them differently or speak to them differently or give them direction differently. Is that essentially is what we're talking about here? Is that correct?
It is. And this one here is really about what's going to drive them into action. If you talk about things that they like, they'll be driven into action.
Yeah. And so in addition to, if we were using this tool pre-hire, we could understand both their DISC, but more so their motivators, to make sure what we're hoping they're going to do is something that is in line with their behavioral, their style.
Absolutely. Yeah. A couple questions in there that I'll answer. One was about the love languages. And it's interesting. I measured DISC and motivators and skills and some acumen. I measured 4 different sciences, and the love languages are another method of understanding people. And I haven't found correlation. So, there's high theoretical people who like physical touch, and there's high theoretical people who like words of affirmation. So
okay.
For me, that the love languages and also, I like, it's another facet of humans I get to understand, and maybe try to, really all of it's just trying to bridge ground and get results.
But I'm thinking so if I wanted to give something nice to Danny or Mike, whatever, and if they didn't have a high theoretical, and I said, here, I want to send you to a seminar, or you can go learn something, that would be not that useful to them, because they're like, I don't know, I want to learn something.
Interesting, right?
Really, that's not. But if you were, for instance, maybe higher social, or if maybe then maybe I could give you something or an experience that might be more interesting there. Like, there's a charity thing that let's go do together. We can help people. And that would maybe be more aligned with your social versus go learn something. You'd be like, I don't want to learn something, but if you give me a chance to help someone, that'd be cool.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So with a high utilitarian, they probably want something like bonus or commission. Like, if I achieve this, then let me experience some of the fruits. a high aesthetic. You might want to create a richer workplace, or if you don't want to give them a bonus, you give them spa treatments, or whatever it is they like, a nice vacation or plane tickets, something to a social, paint it forward, or we're going to do a community event. I want you to be on the planning committee for that, or help to drive that, or spread the word, So yes, you're right. Yeah. You're also talking about gift giving. You said I might want to give them something. Well, it's possible you want to give them one of those gifts that fit their motivators. But if they are, I don't want to confuse it too much, go with their motivators. That's going to make them happy. But if you give it to them in their love language, like if you give them words of affirmation about something they're motivated by, that will be like double good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what I see a lot in our work is that it's more natural for us to give people more money when we feel like either they're frustrated or unsettled, or to show, hey, you're doing great, I'm going to give you more money, when in fact there's a whole bunch of other things that might be more appropriate to a situation or job satisfaction or longevity in the job than just saying, here, I'm going to give you a raise. Because if you give them more money but they don't have a utilitarian, then you're just kind of giving them more money and it's not really helping make a better employee.
Yeah.
Is that, that's the way I'm thinking anyhow. I'm not the expert, but that's one of the things I see a lot. Like, what's going on? Well, let's just give you a raise. Well, that might not be what was necessary there. That might be not helpful to them.
I'll gently correct you. You are an expert. You're my expert. And I agree with you. A lot of times, because the utilitarian driver is important for entrepreneurs and people running businesses, that's what we value. So we think other people value that, right? So that's one thing. Also, not just with employees, but also with customers. We're in a transaction with these folks that requires an exchange of money, right? So the client's going to ask about money. We can't just assume that they're high utilitarian because they ask a question that has to do with money. It's just part of the deal, right? And where I'm going with that is people typically ask for more money, or, you start giving people more money to satisfy them when their motivators aren't met. When they're tired of putting up with your bull and they're like, you're not going to meet my motivators, so I might as well make some money here. That's when that conversation comes up.
Yeah.
Or if you're just a jerk and you're underpaying them for too long and not paying attention.
So what's the most important to Mike?
Mike? Keeping that hair is sunscreen.
No, it's come on, it's pretty easy, right? It's money and time.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
I'd go that far.
And I think you could ask Danny, efficiency or efficient is a word that's very commonly used in my vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Efficient.
Productivity.
Yeah.
Activity is going to come from that D, right? His behavioral style is one of activity. What he wants to accomplish with that style is quick efficiency, right? Mm-hmm. Quick effectiveness that helps people, right? Yeah. So it's interesting, Mike, to understand this about yourself. Yes, you're driven for this efficiency, effectiveness, results at all costs, right? Sometimes, people around you might not feel the feeling behind that. You're working hard because you, in your belief system with that high utilitarian, if I have enough resources, I can solve all of our problems, right? We won't have problems. Yeah. That's your way of helping. So other people might misread that sometimes and be like, well, he's just a workaholic or whatever.
Yeah.
So, which is not true of you. It might be true of other people, but you come with this high social too that says, I really feel your pain and I care about you. I want to have enough money to take away all of it for you and other people. And with your DC profile, it's get it done now, get it done right. It comes across tough. And sometimes people might not feel that social underneath that drives you so hard. You have a really kind heart. And
is Scott listening to this?
Sorry.
I hope I'm glad this is being recorded right now.
I think it's maybe more for your wife.
I think my wife, you know what? My wife gets that about me,
Good.
But I would definitely tell you, Scott gives me a hard time. Like I have no feelings or that I'm cold. It's funny you say that, because one of the things I think that's important for me about the money making side of it is I want to make enough money to support my family, but at the same time, so that I have some flexibility and freedom so that I can give back.
Yeah.
And that's why, coaching Little League baseball is so important to me. It's one of those things where I love kids. I love working with kids, and it's my way of volunteering. And I often think if I wasn't volunteering, I could probably work a little bit more, make a little bit more money. But the money I've made has been good enough to allow me to use that time instead of working to give back to my community and to have fun.
It's interesting that you say that. Let me talk about a conflict that happens. There are three types of conflicts. There's a me-you conflict, like you love these things and I love these things, right? It doesn't work. There's a me-job conflict. It's like my job gives off these rewards and I like these other things. So I'm not going to fit there. Awesome in hiring, right? And then there's a me conflict. I have these traits. I also have these traits. And whoa. And your me conflict, Mike, with that high utilitarian, high social is I want to help people, but that costs me time and effort. When do I stop helping? And finding that balance will be, as you know, your challenge. Yeah. And with this high utilitarian, and I'm speaking from experience here, is that just a quick aside, yesterday I had 11 things on my list and I knocked out 9 and 2 it was a great day. That's a good day for me. Plus all the I did some laundry and some dishes too, but I did most of the things, but those 2 things really messed with my high utilitarian. I wasn't as effective as I thought I would be on my list and all that stuff. And it just affected me. So even though I achieved more than most other people, so just know that about you, that you're going to have that conflict, and also know that you'll be misread sometimes. That they won't see this because you're so driven and so fast paced. Yeah. It'll happen in clients, I'm sure. They're going to love how effectively you help them. Bang, bang, bang. They know that you care. But with that fast paced style you have, you help them, you care hard, next one. Right. And for some people, it's like, I care hard and then I didn't hear about them. So they feel lonely. I don't know a different way to say it.
Mm-hmm. So Rick is a lot less, what I would say, driven in the utilitarian, and even then he's really a little bit more about other people, it looks like to me.
Totally. And a little bit of, kind of doing it in his own way. Yeah. Doing it in his own way. Listen, it's really interesting. I find that high individualistic folks usually have their name on their company. You didn't have much choice in that, Rick. But it's pretty darn cool for a high individualistic to have their name on the company, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, driven by that. But also I want to help other people get some cool stuff in their life. Having a lake house for you is really cool. And it's even cooler if you get to expose that to others and share that experience with them and give them some joy, right? That's what you enjoy about the lake house.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it pretty and beautiful there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. When something's out of place there, you can feel it.
Yeah, for the most part. My kids laugh at me because I can't relax until we get there and cut the grass and it looks the way it needs to look. Then I can exhale and relax and be like, oh, I love this place. Perfect. And they give me a hard time about it so much.
It's because they don't understand your aesthetic. It can't feel right until it feels right. And what's interesting about the aesthetic is that's a subjective thing. So it's kind of a moving target. I can't just go to the next high aesthetic person and be like, let's cut your grass so it feels right. Because for them, it's like, I need the trees pruned in order to feel right.
Yeah.
Or I need a glass of wine for it to feel right, or whatever.
Yeah. Sure.
And don't let those kids give you a hard time.
And Danny is the one that I'm a little bit surprised at some of this. I was assuming her traditional was going to be much higher. I thought Danny was a person that we do it this way every time, ching, ching, ching. And I was mistaken. She's more individualistic than I imagined. So that's interesting to me. And
I think what surprised me about Danny was her social is the lowest of the four of us.
I know.
No.
That surprised me too.
Like
I'm
mine
not-
is more than double hers. That's what's just insane.
Excuse me. What happened here? Sorry about that, guys.
Oh no. I'm not surprised about the others, but I am surprised about the social being lower.
Yeah.
Like, I think of the theoretical. I love to learn. I want to know how things work. Definitely.
Yep.
Utilitarian, I can say, like, whenever that makes sense to me. I mean, where you talk about leading from the back, but I love talking about it. You know, entrepreneurship, those kinds of things. I'm excited about those things. But social, I was surprised.
Yeah. I don't think you need to be too surprised. It's not low, right? It's just your lowest. And it doesn't mean you don't care about people. But if I said, hey, Danny, I'm going to wake you up early on Saturday morning. I'm going to pick you up at like 4. So make sure your hair's done and all that stuff. I got this soup kitchen we're going to go work at, and we're really going to help these people. And, you know, we're not going to get any recognition or pay for it, but should I come and knock on your door? You don't have to answer because it feels weird. No, you don't want me there at 4 a.m. But if I were talking about, hey, there is one of the big teachers in our industry is in town and we got front row tickets for free. Can I wake you up at 4?
Yeah.
I'm more talking about your motivators, right? The theoretical, we're going to learn from one of the big guys, individualistic, free tickets, utilitarian. Now I'm talking your languages instead of the social, which is let's go help people for none of the rewards that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It doesn't make you evil. It just makes you undriven. And when you do help, it looks like I'm going to teach them something effective that's going to get them out of their jam. I may not look for people who need that stuff, but if they come to me, this is how I'll end up helping them. And you guys may have been more confused about that traditional being strong. She doesn't have to believe in and drink the Kool-Aid of everything, but her disc style is one where she does like it to be systematic.
Oh, okay. You're right. I'm mixing. You're right. Got it.
Right. Okay.
So
she wants to systematically learn effective things so she can teach some winners something beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just to put you on the spot and not to, we need to keep moving here, but is there anything that just off the top of your head you would say something that we might struggle with or frustrate each other as a team, or I don't know, or maybe not, I don't know. So,
or clash. You mean somewhere where we would clash?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like in motivators?
Mm-hmm.
In motivators, it's going to be where the differences are. I think for this team, because, you know, it's a consulting team, and somewhat newer as a group, it's like, how hard are we going to push? You know, just understanding each person's level of how much they want to push for this versus other things, I think is going to be the critical part so that we're in agreement. Like some of you want to push at 90%, some of you are like 70%, and not getting upset with each other on that difference is critical, right? It's like, this is how much I want to put out. Also, really have some conversations about what you think help is to our clients. Maybe even like your core values of what does help mean to a client, because you have different ideas of what that means to a client. So what is the C4C? What do we agree is the way we serve our clients? Is it with speed? Is it with excellent response time or service? Or is it quality? Or is it staying in touch this many times, regardless if you're a client or not? You know, what is your care, your customer care? Because you have differences on what that means to you.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. And then leverage each other. Danny wants to learn the stuff. Rick doesn't want to, right? He'll hit a podcast or a quick YouTube, 10 minutes before the meeting, but Danny wants to get in there and take a course on it. So leverage that. You need a quick answer? Rick will do it. You want something deep? Danny will do it. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'll run through the skills really quick. These are personal. I won't have your own skills on the screen here. But the skills, to stick with the monkey, the skills are how well do you do things? This is going to be around page 56 or 60 in your report. It's about your competencies. So if DISC is how we act and the motivators are why we act that way, the skills are we good at it? So think of the skills as going to the gym. You go to the gym, you can build these skills, or if you stop going, you'll lose the skills. But they are the soft skills. They're personal to you, no judgment, right? If you're looking at somebody else's, if you're doing it with an employee, you might want to use some judgment and say, let's build this skill. But I'm not here to like compare you guys. You guys leverage each other if you want to. Where your style, DISC, and motivators can stay the same throughout your life. Most of the time, your skills can develop or atrophy. Okay. And there's no correlation to DISC or motivators in your skills. So I've met high Ds with high diplomacy skills, and they're totally cool. They can tell me what's going to happen in a nice way. And I've met high Ds with no diplomacy skills, and that comes off with a lot of MFers, right? Or whatever that looks like. So we seldom develop all 23 or 25 skills that we measure here. So don't feel bad if you're not fully developed in all of them. Most people don't. And this is kind of what your graph might look like. It will be in order of what you scored highest in to what you scored lowest in. And you can kind of get a flavor of what we measure. It's soft skills. Hard skills are like typing, painting, hammering, right? Programming a computer. Soft skills these are the things we wish people would put on their resume. Customer focus, conceptual thinking, problem solving, time management, right? Project management. I got to just tell you a quick story. This was amazing for me in my painting company. I owned a painting company for 10 years, and it really helped me with my employees. Instead of going to Nick and saying, hey, you just need to get better with customers or I got to fire you, I could go to Nick and say, wait, Nick's not good with customers. Is it customer focus? Is it interpersonal skills? Maybe he has interpersonal skills, but he's lacking diplomacy and tact. Like he can get along, but he says it a little bit rough around the edges sometimes. So I could really hone in and say, what is it that I need from him? And you can do the same for you. I'd also suggest for you that maybe as a team or on your own is to go down this list of skills and mark the top 6 or 7 tops that you think are critical for success in your role, and put a mark next to them. Hopefully they're in the top half of your assessment and you can continue to feel good about those and develop those. And if they're in the lower half, you might want to build those skills so that you're more successful. So there's a skill ranking in there, and there's color next to each one of these. So well-developed means I score better than most people. Developed means I score above average, but kind of mainstream way. Lots of people develop their skills in this area, but I do it above average. So moderately developed, that lighter blue, it means a little bit below average, still in that mainstream way. You're not a slouch. You've developed the skills almost up to an average way. And then there's one that says needs development. I don't like that one. I like it to say not developed, because I don't think you need to develop anything that you don't need, right? And when we were looking at this, it's at the bottom. These don't have any white scores. This is a highly developed person. I usually don't see graphs like this. But if they had white at the bottom, it would say needs development. But if persuasion was at the bottom, and this isn't a sales, this is an admin accounting role, I don't think it needs development. I don't need to persuade the P&L to do better. When you're looking at your skills, this is another way to look at it. And you can see, what do they mean by customer focus, a commitment to customer satisfaction. And you can see that this person scored 9.3 and the average score is 6.3. So this person is great at customer focus. And they're also really good. They're above average. By scoring 9, they're above average in understanding others, still in a mainstream way, because that's what that orange shaded area is. So when you look through your report, you'll be able to see some of those things. And where do I score? Don't feel really bad about things that you haven't developed unless they're necessary. And understand that if you developed anything that got you a well-developed dark blue score, like the few at the top here, these first 3, this person scored in the top 15 percentile of Americans. So 85% of the people who take this assessment can't score as high as this person did. If you see dark blue on your report, those are your superpowers. They're good. You're good at them. You enjoy them. And they're the tool you go to a lot. And that's what you're great at. So use those and let the team leverage you. I think I told you a little bit about this, not developed instead of needs developed. Remember that we develop the things we like developing. So anything at the top of the list that you're good at it because you enjoy those things. So why not do more of those or learn to get better at those or share with the rest of the team members? Hey, here's my top 5 things. What are your top 5 things? Oh, you like researching. I hate that, or you're super creative and I'm not creative. So how about I'll do the research and you do the creative? Do that. Only develop what you need. And too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. A good example is sometimes in management, you have to fire people or lay them off or discipline or whatever it is. And if you come with high empathy scores, right? I'm really good at empathy. It's hard to fire Mary, who's been here 20 years, So too much. Ooh, here's a good one. I helped someone hire an admin assistant and she came with super great decision-making skills. And we were like, an admin that's going to help me and make decisions? Boom. Until we decided she was so good at making decisions, she made all the decisions without asking. And boy, she just leaned too heavily on her good thing, right? Diagnose before prescribing as a team for you guys. I want your most important to be in the top 2/3, the things that are important to your role. I hope they're in the top of your page. There's a book out there called 212 degrees. And I like it because at 211 degrees, water's really hot. And if one more degree, it boils. You go from really hot to moving trains across the country, right? So if you can adjust yourself 1 degree, sometimes that can be super, super powerful, right? Good book. And work with management or your other team members here. How are we going to leverage each other? It looks like Scott has a heart for people, and it looks like Mike can really help us squeeze that lemon and get 2 more drops out. We're going to lean on Danny to give us some effective research, And how are we going to leverage this team together? That could be another meeting we do together. Questions, guys. Instead of practicing, I would usually practice with other teams. Instead of practicing, I think we could save that. I'd like to answer more specific questions. Anything come up? We talked about DISC, how we behave, motivators, why we act that way, our culture too. Like, do we believe the same things? And then our skills.
It's interesting. It's very interesting to see I mostly, the DISC is, I think, is something that we've known for a long time, so we can see it kind of quickly, and it's 4 things. But the behavioral section, the motivators, is the part that is really interesting to me, and how they work together. So that's a part that I think can really move an organization. In addition to the other tools, of course, but I think that behavioral section is just really golden.
I agree, Scott. When I got into learning about these things, DISC was fun to see and to learn. You can learn it pretty quickly. The motivators are easy to learn too. I learned a little bit earlier. Whenever you guys said something, I just said, why was that important? Why did that stick out to you? Why was that important? If somebody says, hey, I'd like to save more money on this job, I didn't want to pay that much, that doesn't mean they're utilitarian. Ask them, if you saved $5,000 on this job, what would you spend your money on? That's when you get to the motivators. And now we can push people. That's Scott all together right there. That's Scott's DISC and motivators. And it's the key to the kingdom. We know that Scott, how he likes to behave, is upbeat and fun-loving, and he's going to come through a certain level of detail. He's really an easygoing guy. But he also wants to do it his way, right? Very independent. Right? And has that traditional kicking too. He's going to make you money that makes sense. And we're going to do it kind of our way, the C4C way. And how do I want Scott to move? If he were an employee, I'd be like, hey, there are accolades. There's future, there's advancement. Maybe we get your name on the wall, or you win an award, or you get a nameplate for your door, Scott. I'll mail you one.
Beautiful.
But thank him for being so efficient and thoughtful and stuff like that, and sticking through it. Those are things that he values. And if you appreciate him for those things, then he'll like that. But you're right. The motivators are much deeper. This tells us how to talk to people. Motivators tell us how to move them.
Awesome.
Question, Art. You notice when you look at the disc and you see the natural versus the adapted, and sometimes there's some slight variations. Maybe it's a little bit higher on the D or a little lower, whatever. Do you ever see anybody who has like big differences between their natural versus their adapted? And if so, what would be an explanation for something like that?
I do. So there are a couple explanations. The primary one is you're under stress. So let me explain really quickly. Natural is how I like to show up if I just get to be me. If I just get to show up and not try, right? I'm with my friends, I'm at the beach, whatever it is. The adapted style is it's not home versus work. Natural is who I like to be. Adapted is a picture of the last 3 to 6 months of who do I see myself having to be? How do I have to behave to deal with my life? And it could change a couple times this year if you got different jobs or different situations. But when there's a significant change in these two, it means I like being this. And right now I see myself having to be this other thing. And it causes me stress. Let me see if you have any.
Usually mine have been pretty close.
Yeah. And you notice the pattern is close, right? So that's good too. I want to see a close pattern. If your pattern was totally shift and you went from extrovert to introvert, we'd have a talk after this talk.
Yeah.
But your pattern's the same. I do see that your S and your I are dropping. It doesn't look significant in color, but it's almost a third on each of them. So what that tells me is I typically like to be this routine, 34 routine amount, which isn't super routine. We like to wing it a little bit. We like having versatility. But right now, there's even less time. You're really feeling rushed, pressured. You don't get to follow through as much as you like. There's no time for the S's. And you'll feel like you'll drop balls and stuff here if you don't get way back up to this 34. Here, you're going to be at your best. Here, you're showing a little signs of it's just a little running ragged. The sand's falling out of my fingertips. I can't hold it all together. Do you feeling that, or?
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely, this is a busy spring is, the busy time for the painting business, but it's also busy time socially because of the baseball coaching that. So it's those two things. Anything paint related, whether it's C4C or Homeworks painting, and then Little League baseball, that's like 90% of my life right now. So I don't really have a lot of free time.
Yeah. And what it's doing to your eye is similar, right? And if you're coaching baseball, don't let that eye drop. They want to see that smile you showed us.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're under stress to get more things done and you don't feel like there's enough time, of course, that's going to affect your optimism and upbeatness. And like your S, you don't have a super strong I in the first place, and it's dropping even more. And the kids want to see you having some fun. So pretend a little bit, okay?
Gotcha.
Too deep?
No, it's funny though. I do catch myself that way. I have to mentally coach myself, especially before games, to remain calm when things go bad. Because I'm one of those people who will be like, no, and I get all animated and that kind of a thing. And I've learned that my kids feed off of me when I've had a bad day, like to start off a game. That energy gushes out to all of them, and it falls apart. But if I stay calm, they stay calm. And so I've learned, like, even when things go bad, I don't show it externally. I'll just, I'll kind of clench my fist, but I won't move. I won't be over animated, and I'll have to remind myself, hey guys, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And it definitely helps them
Yeah.
a lot. So, but it's definitely a something I've had to mentally remind myself to do before the game and during the game, that say, like, here comes that pitch. If it doesn't go the way I want it to, don't overreact. Remember, so I'm like constantly talking to myself throughout the game.
Good. And you're crazy and good. Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's in the assessment. No, it's good to calm yourself, right? And I do those same practices. Actually, PQ is what they call it, positive intelligence, but it's really taking moments just to ground yourself and be like, what do I want out of this? So it is good to talk to yourself and be crazy, Mike.
Well, Art, man, this has been amazing. We could probably go 3 hours. There's so much here, but I'm glad that you took the time with us, because we wanted to give the people a taste of what they can do with this and these assessments and tools for their business. So I'm grateful that you took a chance and had some time to do it with us.
Well, I'm grateful for you all the time, Scott, and the whole team's fantastic. I love all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Super
you.
helpful. Thank you.
Great to see you.
You too. Bye.